oh, and by the way, I can train your people how to use LinkedIn. So if I'm bringing you the same people, why wouldn't you come along with me? I'll help brand you. And that's, it started this movement of, recruiters are scared shitless.
Hey, this is Kane and Alessia from Industry Rockstar.
And welcome to the Industry Rockstar Show.
This is a podcast devoted to driven entrepreneurs and business owners who want to go from scratch to impacting the world massively and become what we call business rockstars.
At Industry Rockstar, we have helped millions of conscious and evolving business owners in over 80 countries globally go from business novice to business rockstar.
We bring you the secrets of the highest achievers, the most innovative thinkers, and the tested systems that's going to grow your heart, your mind, your business, and of course your bank account. Let's rock.
Hey, it's Kane Minkus, and welcome to the Industry Rockstar podcast. I'm super excited because I have an extraordinary entrepreneur here with me today, Jeff Martin, and he is going to rock your world with the stories and the techniques that he has used to grow his business. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it, brother. How are you?
Great. And I'm super excited. I'm going to do very little talking today, I can imagine, because Jeff's got a very exciting journey in what he built and a lot of exciting techniques. And he's a serial entrepreneur. He's spun off other things. So Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit of your story? Normally I intro and I bio, but what you just told me before we jumped on here was better than I would be able to tell it. So tell us a little bit of what you started.
Give you a quick rundown. I spent actually 12 years at a big finance firm. And about 7 years in, I remember going to the CEO and saying, we're hiring just shitty people. Like, these recruiters are awful. They don't understand, And I think I had a little leg up because I came from the sales side. I knew the product. 7 years after that, I came to an agreement with the CEO, who was a great friend, who was a mentor of mine, that I was going to go start my own staffing agency. I was running recruiting for this, massive $1 billion company, but it was the same people. And if they didn't fit in the box, they were no good to that company, but they were great people. So I was like, you know what, there's much more to this. So I decided to literally go across the street, kept them as a client, right? It's almost like when an attorney goes to start their own gig, they bring a couple people so they know money's coming, right? So, I brought them over as a client thinking, okay, cool, right? This'll, even if this is just 30, 40 grand a month, that's going to allow me to start this thing. Well, 60 days in, that plug got pulled. The board essentially said, and by the way, I get it, all good. And by the way, they're a huge client now. But the board said, it doesn't look good that someone left. You have all these recruiters here, and now you're funneling your business through your guy over there. So within a matter of minutes, I left a company that I was making a ton of money, went across the street, got space, hired two people because I thought I had this built-in equity of at least, 30, 40,000, right? That was the average of what we would be doing. And that went to nothing in one day. I still remember the meeting. So,
it's one of those great stories for what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in business.
Yeah. You know what? If it's, that was so I'm literally a week in as an entrepreneur and just got kicked between the legs so hard, but maybe it's my New York in me. There's no way, that wasn't going to change my mind. It was actually the best thing that ever happened, because a lot of times you're crutched by, oh, I don't need to grow, I got this. And within 24 hours, I had 0 clients, literally, and 3 employees, by the way. So I decided that it was time for me to go out and brand myself. And at that time, I had a really good, not a good following. I had a good name in the recruiting industry, right? The recruiting industry is big, but it's not, right? There's really good ones and there's shitty ones everywhere. And there's great companies and bad, just like everything else. So I put my network out there and wound up building a client base. But you remember, you got to meet payroll. You have no clients, right? All that struggle that everyone goes through. It's so funny. Yesterday, I drive to work in a snowstorm. I'm the only one in the whole entire development, right? Just because me personally, even with COVID, I never stopped going into the office. I did for 1 week. But I tell this story because it kind of ties in. And I park and the plow guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, right? And I should have made a video, and the video would have said, it's not all about the cars, the private planes, and the watches, right? This is the life of a real entrepreneur. I got to get in here at 7 a.m. in a blizzard because it's up to me to make it happen. And that's the biggest issue we can get into. But anyway, I started landing clients.
Real quick, I was literally just before we did this interview, I was on a Clubhouse panel with about 2,000 people, and it was called Success versus Sacrifice. And it was everybody talking about exactly that. Everybody was saying, everybody, you get to advertise the glamour, but there's the hard work. We were all sharing stories, and I don't want to derail, this interview.
No, it's funny. I was going to talk to you about Clubhouse. I've been so busy that I haven't been able to be on there 15 hours a day like others. I try to hop in at 9 o'clock, bring whatever value, right? Look, there's the entrepreneur side of me. So of course I can coach anyone through all the mistakes, but there's a million good ones, right? My specialty comes around teaching companies and people, how to either move up in their job or how to hire. So anyway, I started just building this brand, and the brand was me. I remember, LinkedIn, it didn't just come out, but it was starting to grow some steam. And as a recruiter, that's my bread and butter. I make 7 figures every year on LinkedIn. I have no other tool besides Outlook. I have Outlook and LinkedIn. I have nothing else, zero, no bullshit. So I was like, you know what? And I've always had this personality, and I went to school for, media and television. But at this point, everyone was doing video on Facebook, 60 seconds on Instagram. I said, screw that shit. So I beat the system. I would do video, upload it to YouTube, and then share the YouTube link. Now, no one was doing this. So it was instant that people were going to be like, this guy's nuts. And the craziness got me into Gary Vaynerchuk's office, who, by the way, I probably had 6 meetings with him in about a year and a half. And there was times I spent an hour or 2 in that office, and all I wanted to do was suck it all, like just learn, right? How do you operate? How do these people operate? And we've had a couple meetings, and the things that really changed me, he said, listen, I believe in you. And if you really want, and let me go back a second. I was talking to him about, hey, what influencers are out there? And at this point, I was doing some stuff with some guys on the Baltimore Ravens. By the way, I'm like a year in, right? I'm looking for a spokesperson. And I remember he looked at me and said, that's bull crap. You become the spokesperson, right? I'm like, what do you mean, Gary? He's like, I saw what you did on LinkedIn. There's nobody in this space becoming the guy or girl in the space. So it's yours for the taking. But I want you to post 3 days a week, every single day. I want you to respond to every single person. I want you now. And he said, if you do it, I got your back. And I did it. And within 1 year, I had the most viewed post ever in LinkedIn with like 28 million views. And I've never stopped, right? So I built this brand. And then of course, with the brand comes all these new clients. So, it was obviously hard work starting at scratch, thinking I had a built-in paycheck coming that was taken away. Many nights of not sleeping because I didn't know where the last dollar was coming. And this is all boring stuff for guys like you. This is what everyone goes through, right? But then when I started building the company, I said, I'm one of those guys that can look back and I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm self-aware. And I said, recruiting is so black and white. Do you want to use me to help you fill positions or not? Right? That's it. So it's a yes or no. So I said, what a waste of energy to get someone like, you on the phone and it's a yes or no, because anybody that tells you they have some secret bullshit sauce in recruiting, that's your first red flag to run the other way, right? If you have $580 to buy a LinkedIn recruiter seat, you have access to the same people that everyone else has, right? The ability is do you have the skill to get in front of them, dangle the carrot, and get them to come back to you? And that's where I knew we were going to be a little bit different. So we started going hard branding. And I'm lucky because there's a lot of good recruiting companies, just like any other companies, that if an employee did that, they'd be fired, right? If they're out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, this is the perfect time for me to stand out in the industry and really go digital and brand myself, right? And brand recruiting and fun. And we started doing these candidates of the day. And next thing you know, my Instagram account's at 100,000 people, and I'm just a recruiter. So then I started to parlay that.
No bikinis, no Ferraris, none of
You
that.
won't see a picture of my house, my car, nothing on there. I call them $1 million Instagrammers. They're all bullshit, half of them. So a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, I was like, wow, I've made all this money, or I've made my living off of LinkedIn, right? It's almost like when let's say I'm interviewing you and you say, oh, I just paid someone $3,000, to be a career coach. It drives me nuts because I'm like, Gary, I give it away, right? I'm not going to charge you anything. So I would pull up Susie Smith, whoever the hell they use, and say, this person's never recruited anybody. You just went to a career coach that never was in the trenches. So it made me realize, and by the way, I do about 20 coaching sessions a week, never made a dollar, never will, right? Never will. It's not my thing. But I decided that if I'm going to hire you salespeople, wouldn't it be great if I can come behind it and say, not only can I partner with you to hire your people, what better person to teach you LinkedIn than the master of LinkedIn, right? Someone with a lot of followers, someone that has built it from zero all the way up. So we implemented this whole LinkedIn training platform. We had 180 people on a Zoom last night. It was great. Totally free, by the way, right? But guess how many people email me afterwards saying, can I work with you one-on-one, right? That's the whole key. So I wanted to, and I'll get through this because I can go on forever. I wanted to do something different than the rest of the world in my industry. So I started adding on trainings that no recruiting company does, zero, right? What better way to teach your people than having recruiters who use this every day and night, know it better than anyone, to teach your salespeople how to get more leads and grow their business and build their brand. And then about a year ago, I was very fortunate to meet some people that gave me access to be able to do an article and put it on any major publication, right? Different fees. So now I have this arm of our company. When I call and say, oh, you're just a recruiter? Yeah, but the guy down the street's charging you 20%. I'm going to charge you 20, but I have access to build you credibility by putting you on, Fortune magazine, right? Whatever it is. Oh, and by the way, I can train your people how to use LinkedIn. So if I'm bringing you the same people, why wouldn't you come along with me? I'll help brand you. And that's, it started this movement of, recruiters are scared shitless. They'll never talk about, I actually got in trouble on Clubhouse about this actually. I dropped a client's name, a big one. I'm not even going to say it. 50 people called his office the next morning to try to get his recruiting services, right? Their HR went ape shit on me. And I'll tell you offline, they made me take down anything on my, websites that say I work with. And by the way, I didn't have much because I work with a lot of celebrities. I keep it all quiet, right? The only one I actively talk about is Ryan Serhant in New York City, $1 million listing, because he's actively growing and I know, that it helps him. But the average recruiter will never mention the company's name on LinkedIn or do a video because they're scared of what happened to me on Clubhouse, right? Every recruiter will call.
Trying to get their business? Is that just because? Business,
right? So if I go on LinkedIn, say, everybody, my new client XYZ, they're hiring. Every other recruiter is like, oh shit, they use a firm, which is like the not many do. Okay, I got a shot. Because a lot of companies will sign 1 million different contracts with the recruiters because they don't pay you until the job is done. So the more recruiters I use, the more leads I have coming in. So I was like, shit, I'm not playing in that sandbox. There's no chance. So what I did is I created other things that I call cement or glue that if any recruiter calls you trying to get the business, there's no way you'll say yes, because then you lose the branding side I give you of hundreds and millions of followers, and you also lose the LinkedIn training. So because I built that, right? So I guess the moral of the story is I built a company that does the same thing a million other ones do, but I added some bells and whistles on to almost cement these clients that they would think 5 times before they lose me. But anyway,
Awesome.
So that's what I do.
Now the audience knows why I didn't tell your bio because
I can go on for. I love staffing. You know what Gary said? He says this all the time. And you're in the same boat, right? If you can make a living doing what you love, life is really good. You know what I mean? And I stay in my lane. One thing that I see entrepreneurs do, and you're the pro at coaching entrepreneurs, but for me, they try to do everything. They try to be the Elon and have 5 different companies, right? Because they think that's cool and it's sexy. You know, there's a book called The One Thing that I live by.
Gary Keller.
And at the end of the day, you know, I remember Gary, I was in his office. This was right before COVID, the April before COVID. And he said, Jeff, you're kind of all over the place. He said, I want you to get real narrow. Real narrow. Everything you post, everything you talk about, everything you do is just straight all about your business. Stop being the Tony Robbins over here and stop being this guy over here. Get narrow. And he said, he did it too. He said, the problem is it gets harder because you got to repurpose what you talk about in different ways, right? But once you get narrow, your brand will start to build off that narrowness, right? And now everybody knows me as the guy that could either, you know, consult and teach you how to hire or hire people, right? The recruiting. And, you know, it's a 5-year process. People ask me all the time, like, man, you got so many followers and you get millions of views. And I said, yeah, but 5 years ago I had 0. Right? But I never stopped. So the moral of the story for me is when I talk to entrepreneurs, because they email me all the time, and I'm not a coach. I don't pretend to be, but I give them some advice. And my advice is the odds are that you'll give up right before you're about to make it. Right? But you don't know that. Or the other thing I see is they see all, you know, they live on Instagram and Clubhouse. Really, Clubhouse will screw you up. Everyone's a billionaire from 0 to billion in a day.
Right. Yeah. It's a very intense platform because it's, you know, so, you know, my wife and I have been running global events for over a decade, and some of that barrier to actually have exposure to all these different personalities and their backgrounds was, you know, whether we came to your area or whether you went to a live conference or whether you traveled in, and, you know, you have a few of those, maybe you go to a few a year and you kind of be exposed to a few. Now you've got the conference center is virtual, right? And you've got a room with a gazillion. I mean, there's a lot of talented people in the world, right?
Yeah.
Well, imagine putting them all into one building at the same time.
It's pretty cool. I'm interested to see where it goes. You know, I'm interested to see where it goes.
So you said a few things. I just want to highlight it because for you, it's kind of second nature. For us, for our listeners, I want to make sure that there were, I mean, there was dozens in there, but I'm going to say kind of 3 things that you pointed out that I think were really interesting that people should consider as they're going forward. First of all, you focus on, well, you got an expert on board, right? So Gary would be considered an expert in marketing and certainly a world leader in what he does. So you bring on a mentor. That's the first thing. You get someone who can understand, and you can understand the power of having somebody that's been there, done it, and understands the techniques and following them. And you said earlier before we were doing this that he said, do exactly what I ask you to do. And he said, the problem is most people won't do that.
Yep. And really what he said, he goes, you know, what's crazy, Jeff? People sell these courses, right? And you know this, for tens of thousands of dollars, and people buy it. He said, everything I ever done lives on YouTube and it's free. But no one, you know, so it's here and it's free. But the problem is free doesn't mean shit if you don't execute. Right.
And this is a little bit of the, you know, it seems like a convenient sales pitch from advisors and mentors, but for us who've been in it a long time, and even Tony Robbins and Frank Kern and our organization, we all done a lot of research on what causes results. And certainly it's not only payment and money, but it is one of the impetuses for a human being to say, I put in something, I need to get something back. It's
Absolutely.
that law of reciprocation that even if I put in $5, I was talking to a student of ours today in Dubai, and she's launching a whole new series of stuff. And she was talking about, she's starting with a 10, essentially equivalent $10 a month program. And she was saying that, wow, it's tough even to just get $10 sold. And I'm saying, look, walking up to someone on the street that doesn't know you and asking them for $1 is tough, because you need two things when you're doing it. You need a good relationship. You need some sort of relationship with them, and you need a good offer. Yeah. Right. And so the point is that when people just having people invest in themselves through anything, education or anything, there's that first step. But then when they actually put in significant amounts of money, in theory, it should cause them to say, I've just invested. I need to get the value back. You go out and you buy a car, you buy a house, you enjoy that thing, right? Yeah. You take pride in your house or in your car when you put a lot of money into it. And the idea is that people do that. Some people, it doesn't matter how much money they put into things, they're gone. I mean, I've had people pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars privately for mentoring, and then I'll see them for one dinner or something. We talk, and then I never see them again. And some people, there's nothing that will cause them to say, I need to extract this. So number one, you got a mentor. You did what he said, or, whether he or she, you do what they say, right? Big one. Number two is you focused on building a brand, and you did it by doing unique things, right? You didn't do what everybody else was doing. You did what you saw. Hey, others are not doing this. Let me go do that. And that's an important feature. I think that not everybody's brave enough to put into their lives, because people say, well, what is everybody else doing? Let's go do that. But in fact, the best marketers say, what is everybody not doing? And then they go do that. So that's a big distinction as well. And the third thing is you built a business that added specific value with the LinkedIn trainings and the other, you call them bells and whistles, but I would say these were unique differentiators. Big time. When you went to your clients, they said, well, we can go with these other guys. They're all doing the same thing, but hey, Jeff's doing something really unique. It's a huge value add. Let's go with him, or pay attention to him, or build a stronger relationship with him. Even if they had contracts across your competitors, you were attracting their attention through significant value added services. It could be like a whole different division, a teaching education division. So all those are really smart.
What's key about that is obviously then you have to produce. You know what I mean? You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk, right? So when you give someone added value that they're not used to getting in this industry, and then you actually live up and beyond, right? The expectations, that person never calls another, in my world, recruiter ever again. We got a guy that's easy to work with. He makes it fun. We know each other. He has all these other things he gives us. He's not scared to get on LinkedIn and talk about us as a company because he knows we're loyal. And then you explode, right? And I get so many recruiters being like, man, I saw you 5 years ago, one-man show, and look what you're doing. And it's like, you got to get outside the box. If you're just going to do what everyone else is doing, you're going to be like everybody else, right? So I felt like there needed to be a shakeup in the industry. Too many of these mammoth companies, by the way, they're great, but they can't turn on a dime. It takes 5 weeks to get approval to just do anything. And they're losing market shares to the smaller companies like me, because I'll get on the call. What do you need? I'll have it done tomorrow. We'll do a video. I'll throw it out there. We'll have 5 candidates for you. Give me a day, right? Where these, so I always pride myself on doing shit outside the box, right? Every article that's ever written about me, it says it right in there, right? He's an outside the box thinker, because I believe you got to make noise and be noticed, right, to get in the door.
So do my 3 kids. They believe in making noise.
There you go.
Jeff, if anybody wants to contact you, find you, learn from you, just to glaze your golden nuggets, or even utilize your staffing company, how would they find you? Should they be going to LinkedIn, or what's the best
LinkedIn
place?
Is where I live. Our website is universityrecruiters.com. And then I have my personal site, jeffnmartin.com, which is more about some of the career coaching stuff that I do. But LinkedIn, I answer everybody. I email everybody. If you get a hold of me on LinkedIn, you will hear back from me, I can promise.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this Industry Rockstar podcast.
Make sure you check out the next one, and also find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and any of your favorite social media places.
Oh, and please subscribe to our channel so you know when we release new episodes.
And also, leave us some feedback to help us grow this awesome community.
We look forward to sharing the next episode with you. And until then, rock on.